What's up, family? I'm the guy that showcases and promote African-American businesses operating here in the greater Phoenix area. Please help me further support these amazing entrepreneurs by not only supporting my YouTube channel or following me on Facebook, but also stop by their businesses and give them a little economic support. My name is Shaka Shabazz, and this is African American Made.
So I couldn't transition the family situations that were happening in Arizona to New York. I could not get them resolved by being in New York. So I ended up having to leave New York and move back to Arizona, which is how I got back to Arizona.
That must have been very, very
yes.
Hard to do, right?
Yes,
I mean, you're in the mix of building a career.
Yes,
and you're making all the establishments, all these wonderful contacts, and you have to take a step away from that.
I had, coming from, I was in New York working major industry from 19 to 27. And it's like, going in as an intern was one thing. And I remember when I was at the end, when I was 27, I remember that, and working, as you work in the industry, you work on making other things work for other people. I remember at that point, I would have labels contact me to do projects or do work with our studio based off of my name alone. You know what I mean? It was based off of that. So
you built a reputation.
It was a lot of growth. I had Motown that would, you know what? Hey, we're coming over. Okay, yeah, but the engineers aren't here anymore. That's fine. We're coming over. We know you. You know what I mean? So it turned into a really beautiful situation. It did. So it was a difficult, extremely difficult transition, a life-changing transition coming from being in the music industry and working and living off of the music industry to moving to a place where there's no industry, where I can say, yo, I was the manager of this studio for the last 3 years and it doesn't mean anything. Your resume doesn't transfer over to the real world. You can say, there was a lot of amazing things I did while I was in New York, and none of those things transferred over to, it's almost like if I was telling a story, it's almost like a fairy tale. You know what? Yeah, so I did this and I made this situation. We had a flood and the pipes broke, and I had to take the firefighters to figure out where it was, and I had to jimmy a lock open to get the, you know what I mean? So many different, I kept the studio from closing. I collected over $100,000 from these record labels to make sure that the studio didn't close, paid everybody's rent. All those are true stories, but they sound like fairy tales when you're explaining them to the guy who's hiring for the base level position at a call center. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, they're like, well, what are you talking about? Like, I worked at the pizza shop before this, and now I'm here. You know what I'm saying? And I'm hiring you. And you got these amazing fairy tales of unicorns, and you saw Mariah Carey. You got people, you got this person's phone number in your phone, like liar. You know what I mean? Yeah. So nobody understands it. So it was a transition. It was a transition that took me a year or two to really get used to being here. You know what I mean?
Okay, so at this point, you're, obviously you're dealing with your family situation.
Yeah.
At some point, you're readjusting yourself and you're calibrating yourself to where you're at.
Yeah.
At some point, you started dealing in the business again.
I did.
How did you make that happen for yourself? In Arizona.
I have to thank my brother. I got a brother, Chris Rogers. We landed this spot where it's like, okay, so we go to radio, like, yo, we got this single from this album. There's a lot of potential with this project. She had a lot of connections, and I think we put the project together well. Had a video shot by my brother and his team. They came out from different states to shoot a really nice music video that we were trying to submit to MTV and a couple different places that played music videos. And we went to radio, and they were like, oh, that single from her new album, we played that like a year or two ago, so we're not gonna put it in rotation again. So it's like we're in this funny spot again, like where it's like, okay, so I have an album project done. The project's done. I have distribution for it, but I don't have a way to promote the project again, And you know, we had run into that with the Pop the Clutch soundtrack before this album project. And then there was a couple other album projects that I was lining up to release after this one. I had a friend of mine that I met, you know, his name was Marcel, XL, and I met him at the Hit Factory. Brilliant guy. And he was telling me, like, yo, TJ, you should consider opening a radio station. He was beating me over the head with it. And I'm like, I'm not opening nothing, man. Like, you know, like, my life is hectic. I'm going through a divorce right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got a 3-year-old, you know what I'm saying? Like, I got another kid who's acting like an idiot. Like, it's crazy. Like, life was really crazy at the time. You know, I'm in school right now. Whatever it was a lot happening. There was a lot of things going on. So I'm like, I'm not doing this, you know what I'm saying? And I remember him telling me that a couple of times, and I'm like, okay. But I didn't really listen to it until we got to, till I got to this point with this album, and I'm like.
So it's basically because of the frustration of trying to get
right
records heard,
right,
artists that you were helping,
right, and
you needed an outlet.
There had to be an outlet. I mean, you know, I worked on my own projects. You put them together, and then you don't have anybody to tell. There wasn't a major label coming at all to get anybody, you know what I mean? So you put these things together, and there's no way to promote it. So the idea of the radio station came in because I thought, like, you know what, this will create an outlet to promote and to open up a door to getting these projects pushed. And then I'm thinking,
let me ask you this,
go ahead.
While you're thinking about that,
right,
were there other people out there utilizing that format at this time? I know that was like in the early 2000s, that was kind of, they were talking about how they were going to do it. Like, you know, it really wasn't a thing, but people were, with the advent of, you know, the internet, and music and things like that, about legal ramifications and
all
stuff.
that
People
stuff.
wanted to, so were there many people at this point, or anyone out there really doing it?
Okay, so I happen to be back in Arizona at this point. There was only one person that I remember that was doing anything with digital radio. I call it digital radio. And it was a guy named Freeze, big salute out to Freeze. Other than that, there was no other, like, legitimately operating internet radio stations that were really legitimately operating. You know what I mean? Like not like, oh, we do a show on Thursday, but you turn the station on Friday and you don't hear nothing. There was nobody else that was doing it. That was the only guy who actually was doing it. So I always show him love and salute him. But so we started, and I started with this idea that this isn't just going to be a local thing. Like, this is going to be a national thing. I still have a lot of people in New York that I know. There was still a lot of contacts that I had made over the course of working on all these projects, you know? So when we did soundtracks, I reached out to a lot of artists in a lot of different places to compile music for these things. So I still had a lot of connections from these 3 soundtracks that I had already finished, you know, and then just meeting people variously through music. So that idea kicked in to open the radio station after thinking about it and understanding, yo, we need a way to do it. Pause right there. When I went back and I was looking for a way to get the soundtrack out for the project that I did, I had to realize no record label's coming. So if you want to put a project out, you have to figure out a way to get it out yourself. So I got the project out and created a record label. So now I have a record label and there's no promotion. So you don't have a way to promote TJ, you have to figure out a way to promote it yourself. So the same thought process came where I had to open a record label to be able to release my own projects. I had to open a radio station in order to take control of promotion of my own projects. And I knew that other people would be in the same boat, so it wouldn't just be me using the radio station to play me. There was a lot of other individuals who were not in the position or were not in the place that they could open a radio station and go into promotion of themselves. So us opening ended up being a platform for a lot of individuals, like, you know, nationwide and even internationally, where they had a place where a radio station would play their music, because there wasn't a lot of internet radio stations. It wasn't as saturated of a market as it is now. Now they're everywhere, you know what I mean? But then
So the nuts and bolts
Right.
of actually putting
right,
that together, because I mean, you're talking about like not really. I mean, I wouldn't know
Right.
where to go, where to start. I know there's a
Right.
lot of legal stuff involved in that,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of how should I say, vendors that you may have to go through
right,
in
right,
order
right.
to
Yeah,
get on a platform, right?
right, right.
So, and you don't have to go into detail about that part,
Yeah,
because I
it's
know
okay.
it's probably very complicated.
Right.
But basically, you had to learn that too, right? I mean,
Yes.
you learned the record label part.
Yes.
You're doing the promotion part. Now there's this whole other entity that back in the day, it was just, you just sing your CDs or your records
Right,
to
right.
the A&R person the program manager
Right,
at the
right.
radio station.
Right.
That's no longer an option.
It's not an option anymore.
So here's
right.
this new medium here that people are taking advantage
Right,
of.
right, just like
So
that.
now you got to learn that.
Yeah, and,
Right.
and it was like, and it's like that across the board. It's like that with every step of
Right.
everything that you're having to go into. Like none of this is like, oh, like these systems are not in place, easily in place. You know what I mean? These systems are systems that you have to put in place, or we had to walk through and create. You know what I mean? I mean, you do a lot of work in terms of like camera work, and you can't just pick something up, plug it into this, and know it's gonna work. So at every aspect of all of these things, it required me sitting down at nighttime, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours in front of a computer, bumping into stuff by accident. At every step of all of this, there was a learning curve on how do you make this work? Why doesn't this wire work? You know what I mean? Why, when I play music, do they contact me and tell me they're taking me off the air because I didn't get clearances for this music? So I actually did the dirty work on all of these processes.
That seems so complicated.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so many of these processes in terms of everything with the record label and figuring out, and sometimes you get jacked working with people that take your money, you know what I mean? So all these processes, I actually walk through the dirty little parts of it, the sit at night for 4 or 5 hours in the middle of the night and eat your whole night up trying to figure out why a light won't turn on. You know what I'm like? I did all that myself. You know what I'm saying? So it's part of that process. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Now the radio show is strictly audio.
Yeah,
It's
the
not
radio
video,
show is
it's
strictly
just
audio. Yeah.
Okay. Now, are you able to establish relationships with the artists that you play?
Yes, definitely. We establish a lot of relationships through radio. We've been on the air for a long time, 14 years. We're in our 14th year of operation. So, like, almost every artist we're establishing where, if it's an independent artist, we're establishing where, okay, well, we know we can, send music there, or we know if they do some other type of service that we're comfortable doing work with them because we know that they're going to put the work in. You know what I mean? Whereas celebrity artists, we might do work with the celebrity and either grow that relationship or just have an understanding that relationship was created, or even get to a point where, there's work I do with magazines now where we just took a celebrity and placed them on the cover of a magazine. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where it is now. So all those relationships create and they grow. And as long
this
as
is
you don't,
worldwide, right?
This is worldwide. So as long as you nurture those relationships, and as long as you operate in a way where you're not taking from, or you're not using these relationships in the incorrect way, then usually you keep these relationships, and it just continues to grow.
Understood.
Right.
So going back to the radio part.
Right.
When you broadcast, you have a certain rotation of artists that you play, or can you just play whatever you want? How does How does that format work?
Yeah, I pretty much play whatever I want.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'll
So
play whatever I want.
people are sending digital files to you
Right.
of music or maybe a video. And you say, that's dope or whatever. I'll put that in my program. Does it work like the traditional radio station where you got a program list, or you compiling this list on your own?
I'm compiling the list on my own. So in essence, I am the program director for the station. There's some, just because of where we're at, there's people who might pay to make sure their music is played, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's people who might send music that never gets played, you know what I'm saying? And that's just the nature of radio, you know?
Absolutely.
But that's kind of where it's at now. But I handle the program directing for whatever happens in terms of my specific show on Radio Supa, and in terms of whatever the station is playing whenever I'm specifically not on the air. There's a lot of other shows. There's probably like 10 to 15 other shows that are weekly shows that air on Radio Supa from different DJs or from different places. I don't control that content.
Okay, so you just have a slot on
Yeah,
that
so
platform.
yeah, it might be another person who does a show and they have a slot for their show to air every week on Radio Supa.
Gotcha.
Right, so I don't control that content, and I like to leave it up to their creativity, the freedom of their creativity, but I control the content for what the station's playing when one of those shows aren't running, and then I control the content for what's happening on my specific show.
Okay, do you ever get trash?
Yes, often, and I try to be, you know, the music industry is interesting. I try to be a person that's like, if it's trash, then I won't even play it for money. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I try to,
Some
because
integrity in
our
there.
integrity, I
Yeah.
try to care about the music. You know, I
Yeah.
really care. You remember back from the Run DMC video, you know, I care about the music. So I don't want to just be cycling trash because somebody handed me something. I feel like the integrity needs to be there. So if it's super whack, there's times we've turned down playing people's project because it was their album was trash, every single song.
Okay, I want to switch gears a little bit.
Yeah,
You do a video show as well.
I do a video show, yes.
And I tell you, man, what I do here, I'm a little jealous.
I'm thinking that what
Because
you're
you
doing
are
is amazing.
You are so comfortable with these amazing people, artists,
Right.
local artists,
Right.
local people in the business.
Yeah.
And even people that are not in the music business per se, but they are in other related businesses, like,
Right.
you know. And you seem to have such a rapport and such a good connection with the people
Right.
that you come on. I'm listening to your conversation, listen to a lot of your content.
Right.
And the conversation and the interaction, like, they know you. I mean, they're like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's like a connection there. How do you build that? Is that just from a culmination of everything you've done to this point, obviously, right?
It's a culmination, and it's like, you know, I like to say, if you take a rock and you throw it in the water, you can't control where the ripples go. The ripples are just gonna spread out, and they're gonna bounce off of this and do all kinds of things. And I think that whatever I'm experiencing right now is the ripples that have been bouncing off the walls from the rocks that we've been throwing in the water for the last 15, 20, 25 years, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
it's starting to reverberate, huh?
yeah, it's like, you know, I mean, I just live in, okay, so I think, I forgot, it might have been Cat Williams who told a joke. He was like, yo, you drive in your car and everything, and then, you know, black people, we get new rims on our car, and we don't even know what the car looks like on the outside because we're inside the car, so we got to drive up to the bus stop and be like, yo, does my rims look hot? And the guy at the bus stop got to give us a thumbs up or something. So I always look at it like I'm in the car driving, and you know from working inside this industry, because I'm in front of and behind the scenes. I do both.
Yeah.
So when you're behind the scenes, you're trying to make something work, and I'm behind the scenes trying to make stuff work a lot, even at the same time as being in front. So I'm not walking around like looking at my own reflection from what everybody else sees. So it's interesting because I'll go somewhere and it's be like, TJ, we love you to death. And it's like, I don't know what I did. You know what I mean? Like, I just tried to do, I just tried to do the work. You know what I mean? But it's like, yo, we love you. You know what I mean? And it's beautiful. And I thank God for that. And I'm glad whatever it is that I've done that is beautiful, that people love it. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to do the work and make sure it's done right and do it in an honorable way. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to do.
And I see the integrity in your work and
Thank
the
you, sir.
passion you put in it. I'm just blown away because this is new to me, although I do have I have a totally reverse experience from, I'm not even going to, this is not about
We
me,
have to
but-
do an interview because I do want to talk about that. I think it's going to be, I think it's an excellent story.
Consider my experience the blooper side of what you went through.
Right.
So-
It's like, it's like the movie Us, where you got the people that are over living on land, and you got the people who are in the underground tunnels, and it's like, you live this great life. Well, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like
So,
that, man. It's funny.
You have such this amazing connection with these people.
Yeah.
And talking about keeping your head down and just doing the work.
Right.
It's like you're not even thinking about it. You're not it doesn't appear that you're starstruck or anything like that, or you're pandering or anything like that. It's like you really have a connection. And
Yeah.
I'm listening to the interviewee talk back to you, and you guys will say, "Oh yeah, I know that person. Oh yeah, that's what. Oh, how is he doing?" And
Yeah.
it's just an amazing interaction that you have with the people that I've seen.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the promotion and the getting out the word about what you do with your radio show and the video part too.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the video part, because it'd be an education for me on that part too. And it may be similar to the music, right? The audio, right? Like, how do you get permission to use those videos and place those videos in your program?
Right.
Is it a similar process as the music?
Right. So this is what's interesting. I think that in terms of what's happening with shows like the video show, the Rock the Mic show, like we know with radio, there's a system in place where you can go, either go through a Live 365 and pay them, and then they'll cover your licensing for you, or in our case, we have direct relationships with ASCAP, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. So those things are in place. Those things are not necessarily in place for video because we're more on the cutting edge of it. So those systems are not necessarily in place. Like that infrastructure hasn't been built up to say, hey, if you do a video show, you can contact us and we'll handle the licensing for the video show. It's not there yet. It's not
Really?
It's not even there. You know what I mean? So right now, it's like when I do the video show, and we've been doing the video show for, I think we're in our 6th year on the video show. We've been doing the video show, and it's you just have to know the ins and outs of things to know if I play this certain video, when my stream goes live, they're gonna turn my stream off. If I play this video, they're not gonna turn my stream off. If I play this video, when the stream goes live, they're gonna mute the sound after it, but if I play this video, they're not gonna touch it.
Wow, see, that's a total education to me. I don't know anything about that world.
Yeah.
So independent artists who are not on a label, who are not on a label.
Right.
A lot of cats are doing their own stuff, right?
Right.
Does that include their work as well? Like, they come straight to you and say, hey man, I got this project that I did, I funded, and we got a really good video, really good song. Would you put it on your platform? You listen to it, you say, yeah, whatever. Is that an issue as well with those groups?
Not necessarily, but like, let's say they use a sample. I didn't think about You know what I'm
that,
saying?
yeah.
So we had an artist that we did an interview with recently, and he used a sample, and the sample was, let's see, without going into too much detail, it was like a sample from a gangster rapper.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, so once it plays, if you know the song, you're like, oh, that sample's hot. The song was dope, but once we played that song, Universal pulled everything down.
So you have two issues. The person didn't get clearance to put it in their project.
Right.
And you are broadcasting it.
Right.
On top of that, because you're a radio format or what have you.
Just like that. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's got to be nerve-wracking.
Yeah. So, and we've run into doing these things for so long, you run into the issues. You see you see the ups and downs of it. You run into the issues, like you have equipment, and I think we said earlier, you can't just plug it in and expect it to work. Sometimes you got to get some drivers. Sometimes you got to get a different cable. Sometimes you gotta figure out these things as you go along. So walking through all these little processes, I figured out, okay, this is what I can do, this is what I can't do, this is gonna happen if I do this, you know what I mean? But going back to the original thing, we were early on what we were doing with the Rock the Mic show. The Rock the Mic show is in essence, for an independent crew, it's in essence a mobile television show. We can go to the middle of the park, and as long as we have electricity, I can shoot and broadcast that episode, bounce cameras back and forth, and fly music videos in and out with commercials, and I can do that live. In terms of what's happening with streaming video right now, the technology is so new that I don't think the industry has figured out a way to say, we're gonna charge you for royalties on your streaming radio platform, and after you do that, we're gonna either clear you or not clear you. I don't think the industry has gotten there yet. I think it's taken them a little while to do it. Just as it did, you know, when the MP3 switch happened and people started listening to MP3s and downloading stuff from Napster. It's like there wasn't systems in place to stop these things from happening. They just didn't know what to do.
Yeah, so I know we spent a lot of time on that, but that is just such an area that I don't think a lot of people really understand or know about.
Right.
Because knowing the legalities of playing these songs, and the music industry is ruthless with coming after you for playing that.
They'll do it.
Now, my take on it, being an outsider, is that, and I'm not talking about major guys like like the 50 Cents or the whoever's out there right now.
Right.
But you have so many independent artists out there that can't even get a record deal, they can't even get their music heard. This is a perfect outlet for them to get their stuff heard, and even building a subculture, if you will, right?
Definitely.
But if they're using certain elements of different things and all that, I don't know who listens to all this stuff and picks all this stuff out when you play it, but there's some music god somewhere that, you use one tiny bar of something from 50 years ago, and
they will pick it up. Yeah.
So I think that's a beautiful thing that you're doing, particularly for, I know music has changed so much, the way we even market music, the way we record, the way we get out there and get heard, and so many independent people doing their own thing. I think that's valuable what you do.
And even saying that the systems or the ways that we have to promote and operate our stations and the platforms that we use, those also have to adjust and change over the course of time. I know simply with Radio Supa, like we've had to go through at least 3 different changes of our operation. In the beginning when we started, there was no Apple Music, there was no Spotify, there wasn't even Instagram when we started. So there wasn't really a lot of social media. It was post on Facebook, and then you can post on MySpace, which was starting to go out at the time. So you had a Facebook post, that was your social media, and then Twitter was really big for us too, and then with the advent and introduction of Apple Music and Spotify, that changed things, because now, whereas people had the choice to go to FM or figure out where you're going to hear music again, and then they would figure out internet stations, then it's like, well, you know what, I can listen to whatever I want to listen to, you know what I mean? Because I can make my own playlist, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So then there's another change with internet radio, because it's like, okay, well, before you were the choice because they didn't want to listen to FM. Now they can listen to whatever they want to listen to. So then there's going to be another change in how you operate your business and what you do and stuff like that. So we've gone through a lot of changes and learned through each of those changes. So I think that that's another thing that just, it gives us a good advantage on everything. Because
but there's another element to that, the radio part, right?
Yes.
Now, current traditional radio, in my opinion, is trash.
Right.
But I love that, you don't get that interaction and the personality and the person presenting a song to you. And all those elements in radio format, old school radio format. That was part of it. It wasn't just the music. It was the whole thing. So while I understand what you're saying, that people could just make their own playlist and just play all the songs they want.
Right.
It's not the same as listening to.
You're correct. You're correct. Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I think that I mean, if the conversation I think is good, then that's another draw for. And I'm glad you said that because I didn't think about that too much. But if the conversation is good, I think that that's another draw for digital radio. You know what I mean? Or the digital platforms, the shows and stuff like that. So that's correct. So I mean, you can get the music you want by making a playlist, but you're not going to get any interviews. You know what I mean?
You're not going to get the personality. You're not going to get the entertainment.
Right.
And things like that without all those commercials.
Right.
And I know commercials is a part of it. That's how you eat. So
right.
I had to learn that the hard way. So
Yeah.
you know, you don't want the commercials. Consumers don't, but that's the way you eat.
That's the way you eat, right?
So yeah, I think that you're doing a great job, and I think that that's something that should be.
Yeah.
I think they should try to figure that out to make it easier for you to do what you do.
Yeah.
You know, because there's so many artists out there that, you know, they just want their music heard.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and you're blocking them. And I would think that eventually it would be a benefit to the industry as well.
Right. I believe it. Well, I believe that it would, but the industry probably doesn't believe that it is. The industry probably wants to have the control over whatever it controls. So, you know, for example, when I was talking about if you play this song from this record label, they'll shut your stream down.
Yes.
And so it's like they figured out a way to stop you from playing it versus figuring out a way to allow you to play it even if you're paying them money. You know what I'm saying? It's
Exactly.
no, turn the stream off. You know what I'm saying? Versus, yo, let's create a system where these people can pay for it. So no, it was like, yo, stop it from streaming or block the sound. So you know what I mean? The control is we want you to listen to it from the way we want you to listen to it.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is an education.
Yeah.
For real. So the Rock the Mic show and the DJ Supa format that you have, where you want to see it go from here? I know you've been in the game for a while.
Yeah, for me, it's the constant. Somewhere in there, you know, I'm going to attribute this to God. Somewhere in there before, you know, it dropped in my head to just touch people with the music. You know what I mean? And you know, when you're trying to touch people, like you kind of think of things differently than if you say, hey, I'm trying to go in here and make a bunch of money, or I'm trying to go in here and get a bunch of this. You know what I mean? When the ideas touch people, then it's touching people. So I say that to say, you know, and our third phase, if it's at least a third phase, but our third phase, we transition to syndicating the show and having the show not treated as if we want to make sure you come to our station and listen to us, but we want to make it easier for you to listen to us. So if you think way back, you remember America Online. The service was definitely trash, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but,
you get that disc in the mail.
They would, but you said it right there. The thing was, America Online is like, yo, you know what? We're just gonna send this disc in the mail to everybody. So now America Online was one of the leading internet services. It was trash. It was not as good as the other, a MindSpring or, you know, or Earthlink. It wasn't as good as them, but America Online was sending it to everybody in the mail. So America Online had the largest user base, you know, till it changed. But the idea was, so when we had Twitter, I remember we would, you know, a song would play and I would set up our system to make sure it tweets out that song and says, hey, we're playing this song by EPMD. And then we'll put it out and the song will play. And then Parrish might see it. Eric might see it. And they'll take that and they'll retweet it. And it has a link to our station. So then when they retweet it, all their people see it. Oh wait, that station's playing EPMD? Let me hit the link. And we would get a lot of traffic that would come back to us because instead of saying, come listen to us, we had the thought process of, you know what, let us send us to you. So with the syndication came in. And again, the thought process wasn't, come listen to me on Radio Supa, come listen to me on Radio Supa. The thought process was, I'm gonna send Radio Supa to you. So we made deals with different radio stations, over 100 radio stations at this point, that we were going to offer the content to 100 radio stations, or we're on 105 radio stations right now. So there's 105 radio stations that are airing the Radio Supa show every week. So right now, that show that we do weekly is playing every single day of the week at various times on various stations. It's playing all the time. So,
Now, it's the, pardon me,
Yeah.
I fell asleep there for
No,
a
you're
minute
good.
because I was up all night.
No, you're
I'm
good.
Joking.
You're good. Yeah.
So are you talking about traditional radio or the internet radio?
I'm talking
stations?
about what we do right now,
Yeah,
Radio
yeah.
Supa. Right.
It's broadcasting on
105 different radio platforms. So some of those platforms are FM,
Okay,
some of them
that's
are
what I was-
iHeart, some of them are digital, like
Oh, okay,
internet.
okay,
So
okay.
it's a various spectrum of
Gotcha.
different platforms
Okay.
inside the country and out of the country. We were broadcasting in Canada, we were broadcasting in Switzerland, Portugal, you know what I'm saying? So the show is playing everywhere.
And how long is the show?
The show's a 2-hour show.
It's a 2-hour show. Okay.
Right. So in the process of doing that, we also kind of switched our format to make sure that we were interviewing like high-end celebrities. So we started to do celebrity interviews, and then we started to syndicate at the same time. So just like I said, we're up to 105 stations. The show plays so much, I say that when I'm on the air doing my live show on Tuesday night, the show from last week is playing at the exact same time on a different radio station.
Okay.
So it's playing I'm even playing on top of myself.
Okay. So you mentioned celebrities.
Yeah.
That takes me segue into the next
Yeah.
question here.
Yeah.
I know you have some relationships, but
Right.
how did? And you don't have to tell me what
Okay.
type of seasoning you use in your soup.
Right. right.
How do you establish, or how do you get these people to come onto your show?
Okay, it's okay. Okay, so I worked in the music industry before, and I worked in areas with a lot of celebrities. So I think that's part of a piece of it. You know what I mean? Because there's you kind of once you work in those environments, you get used to being in those environments. And there's different ways that you operate inside of an environment with a lot of celebrities, and there is, you know, that you're going to operate in a regular day-to-day environment. You know what I mean? So learning how to operate in that environment was one thing. And then, you know, moving forward, it was the idea that, you know, we had built up a lot of time and we built up a lot of relationships, and then doing a lot of good business with people. And over the course of time, you know, it took a little while to get into it, because, you know, celebrities kind of go where other celebrities are. If there's no celebrities there, then you really don't have a celebrity.
Not popping over there.
Yeah, if it's not popping, you know what I mean? You don't really want to go. Okay. So it took a little while to get started, but I remember we had 2 interviews that came in a row, and from that point I was like, you know what? That's it. We're doing celebrities. That's what we're doing. And after that, it took a little while to transition into doing it on a weekly basis, but I just wanted to move it up. So relationships with a lot of people where it's like, yo, wait a second, my friend's a celebrity. I know he interviews celebrities. Let me tell them they need to go over there and do an interview. You know, I'll bump into a lot of agents who might be working with celebrities, and they already know, well, we already know what you do, TJ, because we see you all over the internet, and we see the interviews you bring in, so I'm gonna send my people over to you. And now that's more of what it's like. Since we've spent time building up that relationship, they know that, yo, if it's a celebrity, like, you know, like you can feel comfortable going over here. His interview style isn't gonna be intrusive. It's not like he's gonna be sitting there interrogating you about where you were the night the guy got murdered. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? So he knows that it's gonna be a good interview. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, you know, having been in music for a long time, respecting the music, having an understanding of what was happening in the industry at that time. It's a lot of pieces that kind of lead into it, you know what I mean? But like those pieces work out to make, you know, I guess us a good platform for celebrity interviews.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely going to be tuning in, man, because
Thank you, sir.
I love it. And I could brag now and say, I know somebody in the business. I know somebody who knows somebody. You know what I'm saying?
It's good. It's good.
So, what would you like people to know about you?
Interesting. That's a really interesting question. That's a really interesting question, man. I'll say
African-American-Made.
right. Yes, African-American-Made. Let's get it, man. Yo, follow God. Figure out whatever it is that you should be working on in your life or using your energy for in this life, and follow it. You know what I mean? Try to do good business. You know, don't always look for the shortcut. You know what I mean? Especially an unfair shortcut. Keep your morals about things. You know what I mean? Those are the things that, if I was telling somebody, those are the things. I think those things have really worked out positively for me. And even if I ran into a negative situation, there's still more than enough positive situations to justify continuing to operate like this, man. So if I bump into somebody and I'm actually doing work with them, I want their career to move too, you know?
Great. And then you're still working with people, artists,
Yes.
as well as people who support artists.
Yes.
I know you do a whole lot. We're gonna have
Yes.
to do more interviews because you do so much.
Right.
And I think you're so important for the culture, man.
Thank you very
I'm
much
glad
so.
and I feel blessed to have met you and
Yeah.
established a relationship with you because, man, you're just so knowledgeable about so much.
This is beautiful.
Man, it's been a pleasure talking to you, man.
Yes.
And,
Can I give a shout out to my team before we get out of here?
You know what? I know how you guys do. I know how you hip hop guys do.
Right,
it.
right.
So I'm gonna leave the next 10 minutes
Right.
for you to go out and
Right.
shout out.
This is good. Yo, Wu-Tang is for the children.
Yeah,
No, I'm just playing. Nah, man. So, no, big salute out to my team. I got a beautiful team, so I always shout them out, man. Salute out to Elisa Arenas, you know what I'm saying? Salute out to Lena Marie. Salute out to DJ DN3. Salute out to Professor X, man. My whole squadron, everybody, y'all already know what's good. I love you guys to death. You know what I mean? Salute out to my man Shaka from African-American-Made. You know what I mean? You need to keep up with this. You need to watch everything. You know what I'm saying? You know, chase them down, follow them down. And follow me across the board at TJ Supa, TJ-SUPA, or Radio Supa, Radio SUPA, just like that. Thank you for the opportunity, sir.
So that's the only two platforms the only two pages that we can reach you. Do you have any other places we can reach you? Or that's the main two, right?
Those are the probably easiest two. If you
Okay.
look up TJ Supa or TJ Supa Hype, I'll come up in a Google search, probably at the top.
Okay,
so.
and just keep in mind, don't feel bad. He's gonna hit you back. He's gonna hit you back.
I promise. I promise I'll get back to you. I promise, yo.
He's gonna hit you back.
Yeah,
all right?
there's a lot of things happening.
There's a lot of things going on.
A lot of things going on.
Man, this has been beautiful, man.
Yes.
One of the most fun interviews I've done so far. No shade to the other important people I've done.
Right.
But man, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you,
And
sir.
we're gonna do some more.
We'll do some more.
All right.
We got to get you on the air.